Right now, we're going to hear from an adoptive parent, someone who's actually been through the system and is currently raising their child. Her name is Gikanga'h, right? Yeah. Welcome, Pauline.
Thank you, Sharon.
So before the show, you did say that one of your children is not feeling too well.
That's a cousin.
Oh, it's a cousin. Okay.
Yeah.
But that you had a long night.
Yes, I didn't sleep well.
It was a struggle.
I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay. So how are you doing this morning? Are you feeling good?
Yes, I'm okay.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm fine.
So let's get into, I guess, the process of adoption. Were you always open to the idea of adoption, even before you got married, even before you had children? Was that something that you were always open to?
Yeah, apparently, you know, the way you're told when you're dating, talk about everything with your fiancé. So apparently I talked about it with my husband before. And I remember telling him one day we were just having a date, I really like adoption. I would love to, I always want to adopt in my life. Then he said, I actually always wanted to adopt in my life. Oh, okay, so that makes two of us. So it's something we talked about.
Yeah.
And then, so I remember when setting like how many children, so we said, okay, we'll have 2 biological children and then 1 adopted child.
What made you open to that idea?
I don't know. I remember growing up, even like in high school, I'm always this person who likes to help. I used to feel bad to see people being sent home for school fees, for example. Okay. So I'm like, how could I help? And I remember I would even give some people all my books.
So at which point, like, did you then seriously start to have the conversation? Were you? I mean, you said that you wanted 2 kids and
yes,
then, you know,
an adopted
one
child.
Yeah. So is that the routine? Is that the route that you took?
It's interesting because, okay, we are Christians, me and my husband, so we believe in God knowing our future. And apparently when we got married, because we got married at that age of you don't wait to have children, you need to have them very quickly. So we're like honeymoon baby. So coming back, I actually thought I was pregnant. We actually stayed without conceiving for about 4 years. So within our first year, after our first year, we decided let's go for treatment. Let's just see what's the problem. So I actually had fertility issues. So I had it's called polycystic ovarian syndrome. So I started the process of fertility treatment, 1 year down, another year down, another one. So towards our 4th year, we actually said, why don't we just adopt? 2 months to, I conceived our first baby.
Wow.
So our first baby is biological.
Right.
So now after that, we now thought, oh, okay, now everything is opened up. So yeah, so let's get the other one immediately after. So a few months, we are trying again, another 1 year, another 2 years, 2.5, we're like, no, she can't grow alone. So we decided now this is the time to adopt. So we started now the adoption process. We talked about it, we agreed this is what we want to do. Then of course the first thing was to tell our parents.
Well, okay, and why was that important to you?
To tell our parents. Yeah. It was important not to ask them if we could adopt, because that's something we had already agreed, but to tell them we now want to adopt a child. It was important because, I mean, when the child comes in, the child now belongs also to a larger family, which is my in-laws and my parents and my siblings. So we set off, we went to my husband's family first, and then we went to my family and told my family, my mom. Yeah. And
is that something that you would advise other parents to do? Because I can imagine when you're ready to have a child, you don't go to your parents and you're like, Mom, Dad, we are now going to
have a child.
You know, have a child. You know, you just sort of go along with it. But would you say that this is something that you would advise future adoptive parents to have a conversation with other people?
Yeah, it's very important because as much as it's another way of having a child, it's a different way. It has different, you know, I mean, there's the legal part, there's the going to choose a child. So, and this child coming into the home, why it's good to say is because, you know, things happen. I mean, we could go home, the Lord would call us home. What does that mean? This child will be left. And if they have not bought the idea and are not together with it, it will become a little maybe difficult for that child. So we need to know how have they received the news, so then we can know how do we go about it. Because if probably they were not for it, would have maybe known, oh, okay, maybe we need to get someone else, maybe a friend, who would be somebody who would take care of them later on if anything happened. So it's very important to be open from the word go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then when you decided, you then decide that you were ready to adopt?
Yes.
You tell your family members?
I tell my family members,
and then
we went to we actually first went to a home. We adopted from New Life Home. We thought that's where you start. Then they said, oh no, you start at the agency. So there are agencies which deal with adoption.
Right, yes.
So we went to Little Angels Agency. So they told us we needed to go through an interview, both of us, actually separately also, just to hear from my husband alone and myself alone, so that none of us is coercing the other.
Okay.
So then after that, there was a lot of documentation, you know, like where do you live, the what's that certificate from the CID called?
Yeah, certificate of good conduct. Oh, yeah.
Like maybe what do you have? So they asked for a number of things. So my husband took leave for a month, I remember, so that we could do all that. Yeah.
And what was that process like? Because it's a rigorous interview, isn't it? Was there any moment through that process where you stopped and thought, are we really ready to do this? Are we going to do this?
I don't know. From the minute we decided we were going to adopt, just some excitement just came in. It's like when you know you are pregnant, you know, like you're pregnant. So we just felt, this is exciting, let's do it. That's why he said, I have to take leave because we need to really finish up all this. So yeah, so we did that and then took the agency, did the interviews, and then they said we had qualified. Everything was fine.
Yeah.
And then they needed to come home where we live.
Yeah.
They needed to see where the child would be, who is, if we had a nanny, how she is at the moment, our other child, how she is. And we had started talking to our child. She was still very young, but from the word go, we told her, oh, we are adopting her. We're going to have another sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after that, then our papers were taken to New Life Home.
How long did that process take?
That took a very short, less than 2 months.
Less than 2 months?
Yeah, that took a very short time.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So now comes the time to pick your
to
baby.
Pick the child, yeah.
How was that decision-making process for you?
We had people say before, you know, all the myths that go around adoption, oh, they choose the child for you. So we're waiting for that. But then when we went to New Life, they told us we had first wanted a smaller baby, like 4 to 8 months old baby, but there was none that was available for adoption as yet. Being available means they are cleared with the police. No one is asking for them, maybe guardians or anybody. So they told us we have 1-year-olds. They said, would you mind? Said, oh no, we don't, because our daughter was 2.5, so 1 year, not too bad, as much as we wanted a little one. So they said that then if we have, they have some who they could bring and we could choose. So they told us we go in a week's time. So I remembered we started praying about it, like, God, okay, so how will we choose? You know, mostly you want to choose for the kuchi, the cute one. But I remember God was very clear and say, don't be carnal. Now, carnal means don't look at the outward. I didn't understand that. Then I told my husband, okay, God says, let's not be carnal. So after a week we go, they bring the babies and we look. And our daughter had a growth. Oh, now our daughter, then she was not our daughter. She had a red growth on her forehead. So immediately we saw the growth, we knew probably that's why God said, we don't look at the outward. So we didn't take long. We told them we've chosen, that's the girl we want.
So what was that time period between the children coming in and then you selecting your daughter? What was that?
It was very short. You see, it took like, for us to identify her was 5 minutes.
So that's
people take time.
Yeah.
Like you go play around the compound.
Yeah.
But we just saw the growth and this is the girl. Why would God tell us not to look at the outward?
Right.
So for us the mark was clear. So we went to we just held her, my husband held her, oh, we love her. We immediately the bond started.
Right.
So we went to the office, we are done. They're like, that was too fast. Yeah, we are done. We knew what we were looking for.
Were they shocked? Did they say
that was the
shortest?
They were shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we were sure. So the hardest bit now was going home. I cried. It was hard leaving her.
Oh, you weren't going home with her that day?
No.
Okay, so take me through that. What was this next process then about? What
so the
needed
next
to happen?
process, you had to stay for a month to bond with the child.
Okay.
So the month means going every day. So the good thing is that I had just left an 8 to 5 job. So I'd go in the morning with my daughter, stay with the baby morning, have breakfast, tea, play with her. Then when I put her to nap, I would take my daughter home to nap, then go back to New Life, meet her, she's up for the afternoon, play with her. My husband would come from work, come home, we bathe her, they allowed us to bathe her, then we'd give her dinner, then we'd put her to bed, then we'd go home. So we did that for a whole month. Now that I have biological experience and adoption, I don't know, it just happened. Just what I felt when I saw our baby when she was born is what I felt when I saw her.
The exact same
The
thing.
exact.
Even though she's a year old.
Even though she was 1 year, she had actually not started walking.
Yeah.
So she was still small and she was very puffy and
chubby.
very nice baby.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I actually remember the following day I took them the diapers I want her on. Like, you guys, this is what my baby wears, you know?
Yeah.
I owned her immediately.
After the 1 month,
Yes.
were you able to bring your daughter home?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was that integration process like? You know, making sure that she feels at home. What did you do to make sure that happens?
One of the things we had done with our first daughter, we had, of course, we used to, so could we give this to your sister? So we had organized her bed, her room, her closet where her things will be. So we had everything ready. And then, so coming home was just, they were very routine. She was a very routine baby. At the home, they really, so what we actually had to do was change the routine because it wasn't working. My husband would come home when she's asleep because they sleep at 6 and he wanted time with her, so he would come wake her, no, you can't sleep. So we changed it to 8 o'clock. So just the change of that, but the bond happened very quickly.
How was it for Tatiana? Was it natural for her? Was there like some, you know, normal sibling jealousy, or did she absolutely and fully embrace her sister? Now,
she was still very young, 2.5. So for her, her joy was she has someone to stay.
Okay.
Because before, her neighbor friends would come, and at 5 they have to go home. So this one is not going home. I have a sister. So it was nice bathing her with her and everything. So slowly we kept telling them about, would mention adoption. You know, Talisa is adopted and or like this and this. So our adopted daughter says her story very well. She'll tell you all about her life.
Right. And
she's just 5 years old.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
And owns it without any shame.
Yes.
Without carrying the shame.
Yes.
And you're right. The more quiet and secretive you are, the more you start to think, surely something isn't right about this. Therefore, let me hide it. So, Pauline, what would you say to any parent who's considering adoption?
What I would say is that adoption is another way to have a child. It's not a weird way. It's just another way. Just the way you can have a child biologically, adoption is another way. You know, my daughter, my big daughter, the other day we were with some people who they don't have a child, and she said, why haven't they adopted a child? You don't have to. So she says, for them it's very natural now that if adoption is, you can have a child through adoption. So I'll just say that, I mean, stigma, all right, it's not very still embraced in Africa, adoption, but it's one thing you don't want to miss to do because of what people would say.
Thank you, Pauline, for sharing your story. And I think it's going to resonate with people who are thinking about it but didn't know what to expect on this other end. And it's a beautiful story to know that you had this connection instantly. 5 years later, it's a family of 4, a happy family of 4. Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks guys for watching. Hope you learned something from today's show. And if you're in the process, good luck. I wish you all the best. Have a great rest of the day. We'll be back tomorrow 8 a.m. sharp. And thank you to Parkin by Radisson for lending us your gorgeous space as usual. See you tomorrow at 8, guys. Bye.